So we got some major teasers last night about 2 new equips and a brand new Zenkai coming to Dragon Ball Legends. Today we're going to talk all about them. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's hop right in. So first things first, over on the Legends Twitter last night, we did get this announcement, like I said, where they say 2 pieces of unique equipment for Legends Limited characters are coming soon. Now, all the Twitter detectives are always really good at determining which characters these are, because unlike the posts that they put out that are like videos and stuff where you're not supposed to take colors and things like that into consideration because it's not always a teaser, these ones are intended to be teasers, and as a result, a lot of times what they do is they use the background character colors, the background colors for the character arts and things like that, the background arts for characters. And ultimately, long story short, the equips are interesting, but I want to show you an example. Let's go over to the new Zenkai for a Legends Limited character. There was some speculation from our boy Lewis about Merge Zamasu potentially getting some other characters, but I think when you scroll down a little bit, you really see that it's going to be Jiren. So Jiren is the most likely one because they're using the exact same background. So all of our Twitter sleuths always figure this stuff out because that's what they typically do. And we're going to talk about Jiren's potential Zenkai. Again, I feel like it's him, but I will throw one more name out there that I think is a character. Well, 2 more, like, just if it's not Jiren, 2 other characters I think could potentially get a Zenkai that are LF characters. But I do think that it's like confirmed it's Jiren. But for the record, we will throw some other ones just in case. And then for the equips, they kind of do this split thing with the equips where at the top they're kind of showing that, and then at the bottom it's different a little bit. So what I'm gonna say is for the equips, I think that it's very likely. You remember when I was doing those videos, I actually did a few of them. I might have taken one down. Anyway, prior to Goku getting his equip, the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, I said, hey, I think that it's possible that there are 2 characters that are very likely to get equips. For one, I said, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a green Legends Limited because I think that was where the game was lining up for, and it did wind up being a green Legends Limited, but that was Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I was very heavy on Orange Piccolo. I'm going to talk about him a lot because I do think Orange Piccolo is still very likely, whether we like that or not. I'll talk about that in a minute. And I also think the Boo Bros here are also very likely. Now, if it's not these characters, let's go ahead and take a look at the characters that are in the game that are Legends Limited that don't have any equips. So there's a number of them. Let's just completely ignore everybody on the top row. I want to say that the top row is kind of interesting because those are all the newest ones, and then there's just Piccolo, who I'm saying is probably going to get it. But the reason why is when you look at the rest of the characters on the top couple of rows, Piccolo is like the only character that meets the criteria of being a anniversary character, things like that, basically a high-end release character being part of the anniversary that underperformed, right? Now, Piccolo is interesting because his stock did rise tremendously. His stock rose tremendously with the release of Janemba and him being a character that can help counter Janemba and play against Janemba, because you typically need to have a green character, and there's not a lot of strong green characters in the game, if we're being honest. Leave a like if you agree. There's not a lot of them. Anyway, so there's that, but also working alongside Janemba to help counter those Janembas in mirror matches, and then also being a character you can throw in with the revive, etc. He has utility. Now we take a look at the next couple of rows, you start to see there are other characters that kind of flopped, like the Boo Bros. I think this guy was harshly treated on release. It's funny to see the full circle reaction to him because I see people asking for him to come back and this and that, but people were really lukewarm on this guy on his release, is the way I remember it. Maybe you remember it differently. Anyway, there's not very many characters in those top couple of rows that underperform, but there are a number of characters that do actually need equips. I mean, you know, the funny thing about the equips is I talked about this in a video where I said, hey, equips are not gone, because if you remember with the equips, they got into a little groove where they were doing only these character exclusive ones with like Majin Buu and then Super Saiyan 3 and God Vegeta, and you know, they got into a little groove where they were like only putting those out. And I remember saying that they're not done, obviously, but the reason I say that is because I did see some people over on Twitter asking about it, because you got to understand, they had went through a huge hiatus without them. I'm talking like maybe like it might have been 5-6 months. It might have been a really long time without any Legends Limited ones. But it's interesting because we're gonna get like 3 basically back to back, because we just got the Goku one. This is not the Goku one. This is the Goku one. We just got the Goku one in like this last patch. So they are going all out with these, but it's partly because they built a nice backlog. The point of looking at this graph was to show how many of these characters actually need equips and or Zenkais, but since we're talking about equips, obviously that's what we're kind of fluctuating towards. And I mean, none of the characters on the screen currently have one, do they? So like, this is already a lot of LFs. And they could put one of these out every month, so like they've built a huge backlog, right? So maybe I'm forgetting one or two characters, because sometimes they have equips that have the character's face on it. It made me think of Cooler having one, but I'm pretty sure that's not. It's just like a red Melee movie character equip I'm thinking of, things like that. We scroll down a little bit, the androids need one. The Goku SS3 just got one, MUI needs one as well. The tag Goku and Vegeta. Trunks has a Zenkai but no equip, if I recall correctly. This guy doesn't have either. this ape Vegeta has neither. You guys can't see my cursor, so I'll have to point it out to you. Cell has one of the two. Evolution Vegeta has a Zenkai but no equip. So there's a lot of variation, basically. So there's a lot of characters that deserve it and need it. So anyway, let's talk about Jiren really quick, because that I think Jiren is a very obvious answer. And before we proceed, I want to say, hey guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't even new. I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you guys have been enjoying the wacky edits, I've been doing a lot of videos. If you haven't been watching a lot of content, I've been putting a lot of work into my videos, so please check them out. There are none in this video though, because this video doesn't need it. Anyway, so Jiren is an interesting character. The first thing that comes to mind is that this is it for Jiren. Unless, I've said this before with other characters like the old Namek Goku, unless they're going to come back and give these characters a second actual platinum that's exclusive to them, things like that, Jiren is now going to be, well, okay, his equip's not awoken, so I guess that will be it for Jiren, unlike Namek Goku, who has the Zenkai, the awoken equip, all that stuff. So anyway, Jiren he's almost on his last legs in terms of viability for this character going forward. They're not going to buff him too many more times. Outside of that, it'd probably be in the means of getting another character that works alongside him. So the first thing that comes to mind is Jiren getting a Zenkai here is very peculiar. If Jiren is in fact the one that gets a Zenkai here, this will actually answer what I said in a video where I did a video the other day and I said, hey, Legends Festival is probably Universe Survival again, because there's just these groups like this team and Future that they love coming back to. And I would say that I would think that at the top of my list is the Goku and Vegeta tag character, Blue, Kaioken, blah, blah, blah. Evolution, Kaioken, like that's going to be very, very likely for Legends Festival if this is Jiren, because that just, again, is another thing that kind of makes sense. And they could also wind up giving another UI Goku and equip or Zenkai throughout this celebration as well, by the way. Do not sleep on that as a possibility. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Jiren was a character that got a lot better post getting his equip, but Jiren's issues lie in the fact that he's just too damn slow. So whenever Jiren is on the battlefield, or whenever the enemy basically activates the Rising Rush battlefield or not, he gets a slew of effects. And this is a cool thing. I really liked how he was able to deter the opponent from actually using their Rising Rushes when Jiren came out. You would play a lot of games where the opponent just would not rush because the payoff was so high, or I guess it was so bad for you if you're the opponent versus the Jiren, right? I remember that, and it would be like, yeah, people just won't even bother rushing because Jiren just gets so much stronger. Since then, that effect has been exported to other characters like Beast Gohan and so on and so forth. But Jiren got a lot of value out of that. And then on his equip, which I actually had open in here somewhere, where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, here it is. On his equip, what they did for him was they gave him extra damage here and allowed him to restore health by 30% and plus 15% damage when the enemy activates the Rising Rush. So what they did here was they gave him more stats, obviously. Obviously the stats, the bulk, all that's good. You love that on Jiren, especially because he picks up that endurance. It's very useful for a character like him, and allowing for the extra healing right there is very, very good too, because Jiren, again, is designed to be a tank. He's designed to live a long time, and that's just going to help him on. But outside of that, his issues still kind of persist, and he's still got a wonky playstyle anyway outside of that, where like if he gets the feint, he does the extra damage and just like kind of wonky stuff, right? So anyway, Jiren is an interesting character. When I look at Jiren on the surface, what I think they could probably add to him is the typical stuff that he's not, so Jiren's not like old enough to the point where it's like he's missing a trillion things, right? He is not a character like that. But I don't expect them to change these very much, but these numbers as a baseline are crazy power crept today. 90 and 40 is just not good anymore at all, unless there's more to it, right? He is still going to pick up a couple of extra unique equipment, not unique, unique ability, so passives. He's going to pick up a couple more passives. So that in and of itself isn't great, but that's something that I think that they could improve on. He needs more damage, he needs more cutting. He gets a lot of damage here when he enters the battlefield, but it's only for 15 counts. If they want to, and it's also only for 4 times. If they wanted to extend this to 20 counts 6 times, that would be really, really good for Jiren. He also gets another 30% cut here, 15 counts 4 times. That's also why the number of pi is a little bit low. So that's also why I can see them potentially not really changing the cut too much. To be honest, I don't really care a ton about cut because your character's still going to get one comboed. cut needs to be at over 100% for it to even, probably like 120 for it to really matter on characters. And that's also coupling them with high defensive stats. So I don't really know what to do with cut anymore. I do like how he is able to cleanse himself. That's really good. And then if he's your last man, he's going to also heal by 35%. So Jiren has a ton of healing, right? If they use the rush, he's going to obviously come back with the endurance, heal 30% off that. If he's the last man, he's going to heal 35. If you got the equip, he's going to heal another 30. Got a lot of healing, so good sustainability. Right here, he gets all these effects for the rush. But if they don't use, here's the funny thing. If they don't use the Rising Rush, he doesn't get any of this stuff. He doesn't get the endurance. He doesn't get any of this stuff. So this is where Jiren is super duper paper thin. if they're not using that. Now again, like I said earlier, you could argue that's a good thing. So what I would like to see Jiren have though is that he doesn't really have any sort of disruption in his kit. He only has it right here, and there's a little bit more I believe down below, but he doesn't have any like on cover change, destroy a card, reduce key, those types of effects. I think that giving him those abilities would really increase Jiren's viability and allow for him to be a more useful character throughout the middle portions of the match, before he tries to go last man standing or before he tries to rely on the enemy using a rush, things like that. Jiren's missing out on all of that. So while he does need more stats and cut, blah blah blah, that's typical, that's normal, he doesn't have any of those other disruption type of effects. And also whenever he does perform a cover change versus their strikes, he can combo it into the blues, and he also inflicts enemies with a downgrade of +10 to their arts cost when he switches while the enemy switches while he's on the battlefield. This is also one that I would like to just see switched to, I don't know if they can switch it, but just make it to where he also can do this defensively, because him doing this offensively is kind of cool, but it's also kind of whatever, because by the time his combo's over, if they switch relatively early in it, this is going to have just maybe a couple accounts on it, so there's not a lot of value in this outside of, you know, that initial switch. But if they're on defense, who cares, right? So kind of weird. He does have cut penetration on his strike, which is pretty insane. With blast armor, pretty insane. I really like the design of Jiren, like conceptually, the way that they built him is pretty cool. He also restores ki on his blasts. And again, he has this playstyle here where he gets extra chance to do feint on his cards twice only. Maybe give him a third time. I understand that this is feint. We don't like feint, but I also understand that a lot of characters are just flat out immune to this type of stuff. A lot of the best characters are not going to get caught with this, so it is what it is. And so much of his kit and a lot of the damage depends on the feint mechanic. And it's so weird to say I want to see them buff a character's chances to do feint, but he gets an extra 70% here. And then on the main ability, he gets extra 40%, I believe, if the enemy has feint for his ultimate. That's a lot of damage on both of his blue cards to miss if the opponent is not feinted. I hate feint, but they built him in a way where he almost relies on it. So either improve his usability of getting it, his likelihood of getting it, or just take off the dependency. Or there's another way they can do this. They could also make it to where like this 40 turns to like 80%, so he's just gonna one-shot you, which would be really toxic. But it's really hard to get the feint anyway, right? So that's the point. I don't really know otherwise what they could potentially do. Maybe they add a small chance to feint on his blast card, like a 2% chance. Who had that? It's the Trunks, right? He has it on the strike cards or whatever. Dude, I never thought I would be going to bat for feint, dude. But Jiren is just, I don't know. They can maybe make him better outside of that. But really, just last thing on Jiren, he's built in a way where he relies on the rushes from the enemy, which again, you could argue it's a good thing if they don't use it, but if they don't use it, he just flat out doesn't get a lot of stuff. Including endurance, which is obviously super duper valuable. And he's also built in a way where he needs feints, which is not reliable. So it is what it is. Okay, the equips. I'm gonna make this one a little bit quicker. So when I was looking through this character's kit, because I haven't used them in 3 or 4 or 5 months, whatever it is, they came out in like April, or I haven't used them in a long time because they immediately fell off. I don't know that a character has, I know it's happened, but I can't tell you another character that's released that was that good for like a week and then just fell off. Maybe it was a little bit longer than that. And something similar happened to like Cooler, and there are characters like that. But boy, oh boy, did they fall off, and fall off hard. By the time the anniversary rolled around, because I believe they came out April anniversary a couple months later, they already were not great. So one thing I realized when looking at this character was that immediately, because I totally forgot this, the point is Vegeta sucks. Like Vegeta is terrible. the Vegeta, so here's the design choice. They try to make Goku more of the offensive option. When Goku tag switches in, I believe he draws a card. When he uses a card, he picks up Nullify Cover Change for 10 counts. Goku has some defense. I think Goku has some healing too, a little bit. But they try to make Goku the offensive side. And conceptually, I like this character. I like how they're anime accurate. I think that that's a cool design choice, similar to Jiren. These are unique characters. Then Vegeta flips in. He tries to be more of a tank. He has a lot of healing. And in fact, when he switches in, he gets health restoration bonus as well. Like, he does a lot of that type of stuff. And he has some disruption stuff that Goku doesn't have. So, like, they try to make that whole, like, theme of Vegeta trying to stall so Goku can beat the enemy. And leading into that moment from Dragon Ball Z, they try to really reenact that, and I'm cool with that. I didn't really have a problem with that in this character, but what it does is it makes Vegeta terrible. So Vegeta doesn't do anything that you really need in terms of an offensive character. So what I want to see, and it's really tricky because I don't know if the equip will just be super duper generic like some of these other ones are. It just kind of depends. Like, this one is really good, but I don't know if it'd be generic in terms of, like, because this is a tag character, if they're going to say when tag switching to Vegeta, give Vegeta exclusively these buffs, and then they'll reset when you switch back to Goku, like they do throughout the tag switching passives, right? I don't know if they'll do that, or if they'll make an equip that just functions on both sides. I don't really know, right? In fact, this is our first equip for a tag character, period, right? I believe anyway. Correct me if I'm mistaken, of course. So I don't really know what they're going to do, but I think that the Goku side is okay. The increase in stats they're going to give him with these 35 splits, 15% splits they gave Jiren, Goku, the other characters too, that's all good. I'm cool with that. But the Vegeta side is terrible. I think the Vegeta side needs to do more damage. And if they're going to try to make him this wall where he's really good defensively, has some disruption stuff, I think they need to also lean into that a little bit more. And he would still have his place. The thing with the Vegeta side is that, like, he has that green card that goes really, that pops off. It's really good when he's in preparation mode. It's kind of whatever outside of that, obviously, but in preparation mode, his green is really good. He force draws it, and that part of this character is solid, and he's just trying to stall. He even heals a bit. Like I said, he heals a lot, actually, throughout his kit, and so maybe they'll give him more healing, but anyway, he's just trying to stall. And again, I like that design, but it feels like if you get caught with Vegeta out there, you're screwed. You're not getting to the preparation. Also, if I recall correctly, the Gammas are the second iteration of the preparation, yes, but I believe that they can actually do their mechanic a lot more reliably because they can switch more reliably. An underrated thing to do with this character would be to make it to where they can switch more consistently. The Gammas have a wall of text, dude. They have somewhere in here that allows for them to tag switch more reliably and quicker than the average character. So if they were to export that effect to the equip, even if they only did that change in the equip, that would actually exponentially improve this character a lot, even if Vegeta's side still sucked, right? So let me know what you guys think about this character exclusively. Again, I could talk about Goku too. There are things he's missing, but I think Goku is able to sustain a little bit more. Also, if they wanted to give Vegeta like Nullify Cover Change, that would really help, right? like Vegeta's just kind of out there, just to be out there. But again, that's the part of the story they're trying to adapt, I guess. So Piccolo, Piccolo's an interesting one for sure. I think that there are numerous things I can give this character. I'm not really going to talk too much about him in the base, just Power Awakening version. I'm going to talk more about Orange, because the reality is that these revived characters, they may do some fun stuff. Like, I really like Blue Goku. I like his main ability and stuff. They may do some fun stuff pre-revive, but they're not really meant to make it through the match. You're meant to get the Orange version. You're meant to get the revival off. Let's talk about Orange Piccolo here. On the surface, Piccolo is a character that really, I think, is probably, or was anyway, prior to Janemba, where his stock rose, I think is probably underrated. Piccolo has a lot of stuff in his kit that's really interesting. So they built him in a way where he's meant to be a huge damage dealer and also do a lot of damage cut / disruption type of things. So I don't think he actually has a lot of flat cut in his kit, which obviously isn't great. They made him immune to the paralyzation. They also allowed for him to go neutral whenever the enemy uses those cards, one time only, but it does reset. That's good. Also, he does do these -2 draw speed levels, arts power down debuffs whenever he cover changes. That's good too. And also, whenever his gauge fills, he's able to destroy all your enemy's cards, reduce ki, reduce Dragon Ball, seal main ability. And the downside, well, also the gauge starts 50% full, which is good too. So, like, where's the downside with Piccolo? So there are numerous little minor things in his kit that are not good. I understand wanting to make this limited to one time, but making it limited to one time is a mistake. I don't know if they will be able to fix this with an equip. This is so like there are things that, like I was talking about with Goku and Vegeta, there are things that just probably require a Zenkai. This needs to pop maybe a second time, because he starts off with it full, yeah, but he loses a lot of utility outside of it. He gets the extra damage, his blue cards get cheaper, he goes neutral for 15 counts. That's all good stuff, cancels downgrades. The reason why this is limited to once is because the enemy based stuff. The sealing, they didn't want you to seal the enemies twice, you know, for 10 counts. They didn't want you to take 2 Dragon Balls off, which wouldn't be broken, by the way, because other characters like Vegeta just take Dragon Balls off because they want to. Reduces enemies' ki, destroy all your enemies' cards, things like that. So anyway, this needs to pop twice. I don't know if this would, like I said, function like that, but it would be good. Because also, you look at him here, he has basically debuffs to make enemies take damage all throughout his kit on the strikes and blasts, and he also has hit through penetration in his main ability too. So Piccolo's got like a lot of stuff that just allows for him to do more damage. He also can switch in faster by shortening his own sub count. He restores health, he restores ki. He also picks up 2 versions of Nullify Cover Change, which is not very common still to this day. He might have been the first character that had it in 2 spots. He gets it here, he gets it on the green. Speaking of the green is a counter, and the green as a counter does do other things, like allowing for him to nullify having his cards destroyed. So like, Piccolo as a character, I think, is conceptually really strong. I think that if they wanted to lean more on the margins and give him more actual defense, that would be good, like more cut, like because let's just find it. Produce. He only has the 15, right? Yeah, he only has the dude. That's actually really. You know what it might be? Maybe there's some in the power awakening that's sticking through post transformation. Maybe that's what it is. Anyway, but yeah, maybe they wanted to give him some more cut, would help him not get blown up freaking to smithereens, right? Also, I don't really love the one time only 5 count nullify unfavorable element type thing that he has here for 5 counts until he switches again. That's not great either. Like, they just did a little weird, they did numerous little weird decisions with Piccolo, but on the surface I don't really like, unlike the Buu duo where I could pinpoint like a numerous things, I don't really have a lot of things with Piccolo that I could really pinpoint. He does look like a more modern character than them. He does look like a better character than them, and those are things that are true. Also, again, a lot of the value in characters like Piccolo comes from the literal fact you have a revive. It doesn't matter what the revive does, the simple fact you have a revive is valuable and powerful in this game, because it does a lot of different things. It forces the combo stop, it forces you back to neutral, it does a lot of different things. Just having that mechanic, period, is valuable. So I think that with Piccolo, people often overlook that in favor of wanting him to do X, Y, or Z that he's not doing, similar to other characters of similar quality, but having the revive is valuable. It's very similar to Piccolo and Gogeta, where it's like, I remember reading their kit and I'm like, I'm not really all that impressed, but regardless, the revive is very, very strong. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and conclude here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think. Oh, I meant to do this. So characters I think that could potentially get either equips or Zenkais. So for the equip thing, I really don't really think it's anybody else but those characters, but I wouldn't be surprised if God, Goku, and Vegeta here got a equip, or Zenkai really. I wouldn't be surprised if either of those two things happened for them. Same for Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta. He's still lacking both of them. I wouldn't be surprised if he got either of those as well. There are other characters down here that need like equip awakenings, things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a equip for the tag 4s, not because they're bad, not because they particularly need it, but I think that one thing that people need to understand too, it's not always about what character you think needs it or deserves it or this or that. It also is about the ongoing celebration. How can you tie into the ongoing celebration, right? Now, the tag 4s in particular don't really tie into anything unless we do get a GT as part of the celebration yet again. But what they are in a position for is that there are numerous equips and things like that that are trying to buff up like Sun families. So maybe this celebration, if we do get that Vegeta Goku character, maybe the ability is going to be Vegeta Clan, Sun family, things like that, which you would imagine, right? So they're trying to build out those teams too, so that would help with that. So there are different avenues that they could take with some of these characters. So anyways, guys, it's been DFree. It's been fun. Check out the videos on the screen before you go.